As part of the last course on communication, we're going to be focusing on marketing and various key concepts that you need to understand pertaining to marketing and communication. And so, on this particular video training, we look at communication messaging and positioning, and how do we go about communicating our messages and positioning them adequately enough in a manner that the consumer can be able to not only understand what we are doing, but most importantly, help us connect with the consumer. Because at the end of the day, we communicate in order to connect. And one of the very easiest ways in which we should be communicating is through storytelling. What do I mean? The consumer should always be the hero of the story, not our brand. The message should be very, very clear. Now, the challenge with most healthcare practices is that they don't know how to communicate about the products to the consumer. So they are always just putting forth various specials, promotions, deals in terms of what they're communicating with the consumer. And then they don't receive the necessary response that they are hoping to get from the consumer, simply because how they communicated their products, their services, and their solutions to the consumer had absolutely nothing to do with the consumer. It had everything to do with them getting their message across about their brand and the company, and not communicating in a manner in which will get the consumer to respond easier, because it's all about connection. So are you communicating to connect, or are you communicating to just tell people about your brand? And so words sell things. And if the wording or the messaging is not clear, consumers don't bother listening, let alone reading to what you are saying. More than getting our products into the market, what is more important is to be able to communicate why our consumers need our products in the first place in their lives. Even if we have the best product in the marketplace, we will lose to an inferior brand or product if our competitors' way of communicating is much more clearer than ours. So think about it. A lot of the times, brands that we as consumers actually everywhere else connect with are those whose messages are simple and clear. Those that have a message that directly connects us with their brand. Even if it might not necessarily be the best product, but if how they communicated their product was easier, it means that how we're going to use that product is going to be easier. But if it's too complicated to even understand what that person is saying or what that brand or company is saying, at the back of our mind, we disconnect immediately because we're already thinking that it's going to be too complicated to go in that direction and use that particular product. And so some notes with regards what should be happening with regards to most practices is that marketing, when it comes to just how we communicate, marketing is too complicated. As I alluded to earlier on, we make a lot of noise pertaining to products, services, and solutions. And so the brain doesn't know how to process that information. The more simple and predictable communication is, the easier it is for the brain to actually digest what that particular message is all about. And so communicating through a story helps because it's sense-making. It's like a sense-making mechanism for us as a consumer. And so think about it, when you're communicating to the consumer in an eye care practice, anything that you are saying to them, a mailing list or a news flash, a special and a promotion, what you do on social media, anything marketing related, is it in a story format? Is there a journey that a person can identify with? Because if not, then you're not going to have the necessary results that you would expect from the marketing activities and initiatives that you're doing. And so story formulas put everything in order so that the brain doesn't have to work too hard to understand what is going on. I personally am a visual person. But in me being a visual person, things need to be in boxes. I need to understand what the problem is, why that problem existed, what can be done about that problem, how it can be solved, who is going to solve it, what will things look like once that problem has been solved. That's me personally. I want to see that picture in any form of marketing communication that I'm exposed to as a consumer on any other type of brand or product outside of the eye care industry. And a lot of people are actually like that. Subconsciously so, they're not actually aware that they're like that. The visual stimuli is more than the audio and the written stimuli. And so it's very, very important that how we communicate our message through various marketing initiatives, that we have that visual component. And we, in the eye care industry, for example, the visual stimuli is going to be more predominant than any other stimuli for consumers. People don't want to read about what you're saying they need. People don't want to hear what you say they need. People want to see that which they were going to experience. That's very, very important that you can understand that. I mean, there's a thing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and in it he mentions that the brain is tasked with setting up a system in which it can eat, drink, and survive physically. That's our primary need, right? The brain is therefore then concerned with safety as a secondary component of that primary need of survival and food, and then safety then comes second. Thereafter, we start thinking about relationships. That's what he alludes to in the hierarchy of needs. And finally, the brain then concerns itself with greater psychological, physiological, and perhaps to a more important component, the spiritual needs that give us a sense of meaning. But that is the hierarchy of needs that Maslow alludes to. And so how does that impact the everyday running or operations of an optometry practice? It's very simple. When we ramble on about how great our products are, how our consumers end up not caring about that. That is because that information pertaining to our wide range of products, services, solutions that are focused on the company and not them, it does not help them do what? Eat, drink, find a mate, fall in love, build a tribe, experience a deeper sense of meaning, stockpile resources or for emergencies. So the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, think of what we said earlier on. What we eat, drink, then safety, then relationships, then sense of meaning. When we communicate our products in the eye care industry or in our eye care practices in that format, it means that when a person is looking for a pair, having to decide on spending the money that you say they must spend in relation to the pair of spectacles that they need, it means you communicated through your marketing the problem that they had and how it affects them. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If they can't see well, they can't perform better, they can't work better, they can't produce that which they need to produce because their vision is affected. So the vision then is a primary need that you are addressing. And the solution then that you are speaking of is in relation to, if they go with what you are recommending, this is what they will be gaining. If they don't go with what you are recommending, this is what they will be losing. So that's how you connect Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of your messaging and your marketing story, in terms of how you communicate that which you want the patient or the consumer to understand and to get. And so when consumers, for example, visit our websites and we blast them with a bunch of noise about our company, the products, they just simply ignore that because there is no visual representation of what we are offering that they can identify themselves as having that problem, and they already see the solution on your website or your social media platforms. So basically, when we communicate, what problem are we identifying that needs to be solved? Why that problem? How do we go about solving that problem? What are some of the things that can be done? Who is going to be taking charge? And what are the benefits? And how will life be once that problem is solved? That's what consumers want to see in our messaging. And it's very, very simple, that you can put it in storytelling. You can put it in a journey of a presbyopic patient, journey of a contact lens wearer, journey of a young school kid who's wearing glasses for the first time, Once they see that story and they see that, wait a minute, this is what life will look like post me getting this particular product, it's going to be much easier for you to communicate your product, your messaging much more easier to a larger audience. And so mistake number one that brands do, they fail to focus aspects of the offer that will help people survive and thrive. Once I survive, then how am I going to thrive? That's what you're literally communicating with patients. One of the things that I used to do when I was in practice, helping people choose glasses, was, sir, this is how you came in seeing, and I will demonstrate what they are currently seeing. There were many instances where I would stand outside of the practice and get them to see outside in the shopping mall where I was working, how the vision is currently without glasses or with the glasses that they're seeing. Then with the glasses that we're prescribing, I will then show them that this is what you are supposed to be seeing. You see the difference? Now, this pair of glasses that you're wearing doesn't even have a coating on it. It's just a trial frame that we've put in front of your face. Imagine what your vision is going to look like once we put a pair of coatings that we have recommended for you. The more premium the coating, the better the visual experience that's going to be. So I put them in a situation where they realize that, wow, I've actually not been taking good care of my eyes. So I've not been surviving. That the way I've been seeing has actually been affecting my survival. But here's a solution that I now have that will not only help me survive, but it's also going to help me thrive. Because then I'll reiterate to them to say, look, imagine how you're going to experience this. Imagine how you're going to see when you are doing this once you have your pair of glasses. So that's what your glasses are actually going to be doing. That's what your glasses are going to be solving. And so that's what I was doing when I was in practice communicating with patients. And so we write here that all great stories are about survival. A story about anything else won't work to captivate an audience. If we position our products and services as anything but an aid in helping people survive, thrive, be accepted, find love, and achieve an aspirational identity or bond with a tribe that will defend them physically or socially, we will struggle to sell anything to anyone. That's basically a summary of Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of how it works within the context of an optometric practice. Mistake number two that brands do is that they cause the consumer to burn too many calories in an effort to understand their offer. When having to process too much seemingly random information, people begin to ignore that source of that useless information in an effort to conserve calories. Think about when you're watching TV. There are certain adverts that captivate you immediately, and certain adverts that just turn you off. There are certain adverts that you are not even interested about the product, but all of a sudden, the way they structured the advert spoke directly to you. And all of a sudden, you're focusing and you now remembering. Next time you see something that might not have anything to do with that, but that has got similar connotations to what you saw on TV, you remember the advert. You remember, oh, I actually need this. And so that's the whole thing about the brain does not want to be working too hard to understand something. If it has to work too hard to understand something, it just literally shuts off and moves right along until it finds something that it's easier for it to understand. And so, in other words, there's a survival mechanism within our consumers' brains that is designed to turn us or to tune us out long before we even start confusing them. So once we are beginning that process of this is going to actually confuse the consumer, or that's what they're receiving, they turn off and they just block us out. So we'll be busy on marketing activity, social media posts, but it's not communicating that which we're thinking is communicating. It's actually doing the complete opposite. So we need to simplify our message as best as possible so that consumers are not trying to figure out what is it that the product is going to do and what our offering is. If that is simplified for them, it's going to make the decision regarding I want this product, I need this product much, much easier. And so story is a sense-making device. It identifies a necessary ambition, defines challenges that are battling to keep us from achieving that ambition, and provides a plan of action that helps us conquer those challenges. That's basically a story. You put the start, the journey, the end, the outcome. And when we define the elements of our story as it relates to our brand, we create a map for consumers to follow that can help them engage our products and services much more effectively. And so the key to everything that we do in terms of our messaging and our positioning is clarity. Are we clear? Is our message simplified? That's what is very, very important. Your brand should be answering the questions consumers have, or else they will move to a brand that does. And it is important to identify with what our consumers want, what problem we are helping them solve, and what life will look like once they have engaged us on our products and our services. That's how you structure your messaging, through story. And that's the journey that consumers want to see when they're engaging our messaging and our marketing initiatives. And you will win more people, you will convert more browsers into buyers, you will sell more, and your sales will continue to increase simply because your marketing is structured in a way that it's communicating effectively with the respective consumer.